Thank you very much, everyone, for coming, and Luna PR for organizing this amazing event. I think this is a great topic, something that is, going to pick up in the months and years to come. How institutional capital is actually going to flow in the digital asset space through DETCOs and other institutional elements. My name is Rafay. I'm the co-founder and chief financial officer at ZIGChain. With me is Amar. Amar is from Seg Media, Nasdaq listed company. He's the outside legal counsel, and Mr. Wojciech, a very dear old friend who represent BTCS and his chief of strategy there as well. Guys, how are you feeling today?
Feeling great.
Yeah, absolutely great. Thanks.
Is it your first time in Abu Dhabi?
No, I was here in July actually, but I've been to Dubai a few times.
Amazing. Sounds wonderful. So, I mean, more than because I myself am not like a professional moderator. So we'll try and keep it more like a conversation and see that in the amount of time that we have, how we can try and educate our friends out there and see what we can get out of this conversation. So, basically, main question that comes out, and maybe Wojciech, I would start with you. There is a whole narrative around active versus passive management of DATCos. So let's start at the foundation. The digital asset treasury, they today range from a lot of variations. There's a spectrum where there are DATCos which are just simply going with, buy and hold. And some are doing active management. So on a spectrum of being buy and hold and being active management, I'll start with you, Wojciech. What's your point of view? What do you think is the right way going forward?
Thanks for this question. Hello, everyone. So I believe that the narrative buy, hold, and hope, it's not enough to be successful. So what's important, and that's what we mean by the active treasury, is that you have a viable business model, you have a narration which fits the demands of the market, and you know how to explain that and express to the investors, and then you use the treasury to support your business model. And that's active treasury, in my opinion, right? So basically, it's not enough just to hold Bitcoins if there is no reason for a Bitcoin in the company, right? So basically, in our situation, BTCS runs validation, BTCS supports government organizations, supports financial markets, and we use our treasury, which is 90% BTC and other coins as well, to support this initiative. That's active versus passive.
What do you think, Amar? What's your point of view on this active versus passive kind, given the fact that you guys are relatively new in this this model? But briefly, what do you guys think about it?
Well, I mean, technically, we're very new.
Very new, yeah.
We've been looking at the opportunity to get into DATs for, I would say, 6 months. But because we're a publicly traded company, we go through a pretty long vetted process. We talk to our advisors, we talk to other folks, and we really vet the opportunity. And quite honestly, if you'd gotten into the space a year ago, the last 6 months or 6 months ago was great. And you look how investors have gotten weary. So I completely agree with you that in this space, if you're doing it as a passive model, I don't think it's sustainable. But I think just for context, it's important for folks to understand what Seg Media is. I mean, and why a active model makes a whole lot of sense for us. And there's a number of synergies, and so we're really grateful for being here. In fact, we want to thank Nikita for putting on, and Luna PR for putting on this wonderful event. It actually worked out because it was during Abu Dhabi Finance Week, and right before that was the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. And the reason that's important to Seg Media is because we're a publicly traded company that focuses on sports, entertainment, gaming globally. That's what Seg Media stands for. And so we own domain names like sports.com, concerts.com, ticketstub.com. We're in the process of actually buying and completing our acquisition of Veloce Media Group, which recently completed their acquisition of Quadrant. Why is that important, and why was this week such a good week for us? Is because Quadrant is actually founded by Lando Norris. the Formula One champion, world champion now. And it's sort of his culture and his brand. And Wojciech Media Group has been in esports, sim racing. It connects very well with, sort of the business part of DAT. You can use those assets that we have. So it's been a fantastic week. And, for us, it's important to connect our assets with a digital asset treasury. So you have your yields. Those are great. But if you have underlying business assets that support that, there's that connective tissue there. And I think Seg Media is certainly positioned to do that very well.
No, amazing. I mean, obviously, we are having some discussions around those tokenization opportunities as well, absolutely. And good that you mentioned that about the yield. And I would like to ask both of you, because, again, both of you are, big fans of generating yield just beyond holding it. So I would like to ask maybe Amar, you first this time, that when we talk about generating yield beyond just the holding of the underlying assets, what is your claim to fame in a way that how do you think that the assets are appropriated so that the yield is generated? What do you think is the underlying business model there that generates yield beyond just the holding for you?
Well, I think, so first of all, if you're just talking about the traditional digital asset treasury yield, right? I would defer to the experts. As a publicly traded company, we find and recruit the best people and partner up with the best people to generate those yields. What we bring and why this ecosystem makes a lot of sense for us is because we have all of these underlying assets that support that. And I think that's what distinguishes Seg Media from a lot of the folks that are in this space now. And so I think, quite honestly, if we were looking to generate yields, there's a number of companies. You're doing it rather well, from what I understand. Yeah. And so, certainly we would be looking to partner up with the right types of folks.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think this is what I think is a very interesting flavor that comes to the table. And I think when we talk about our partnership from a ZIGChain standpoint, this shows that because your focus on the tokenization of the assets such as IPs and entertainment, that brings yield beyond just the DeFi yield. But obviously the significance of DeFi yield in its true sense is there, which is native to the asset. So I would ask Wojciech, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about, because I think you just published your results, I think, recently for the previous quarter, and they were booming. I think this is one of the reasons that the share price of BTCS is much higher than its competitors. I think it's 5-6 of the NAVs. So tell this secret sauce to everyone of your yield.
Yes, we are trading much above NAV, and the secret sauce is very simple. You have to have a viable business model. So basically, we are providing different services, and we are building validation. We are supporting different initiatives which can be done through decentralized systems, through blockchains, for example. And we use treasury that we hold in order to delegate to those blockchains, to delegate to the validation. We changed a little bit the way how you think about treasury of the company. So if you look at most of the, let's say, companies which are publicly listed, like get Apple as an example, right? Apple also sits on a bunch of treasury, but it's fiat, it's cash. I mean, you probably saw their balance sheet, they sit really on the big treasury, but it's fiat. If you look at the year-to-year, at the power of US dollar, you will see that because of multiple things like inflation, for example, the power of US dollar goes down. So what we assumed is that if we compare the value of the US dollar and the value of the Bitcoin, it's very clear that US dollar goes down, Bitcoin goes up. So what if we would change the way how the public company is structured? Instead of keeping money in US dollars on the bank account, let's convert everything to the Bitcoin. And once you need something to be spent or to be bought or whatever, then you can borrow against those Bitcoins, or you can do some kind of the structures. And then you will see that basically if you use those structures, you use those treasury to finance your services, your products, your revenue streams, instead of inflation, you have a deflation of your treasury.
Absolutely. No, I think
Rafay, can I
sure,
piggyback off of that? So I think he touched on a few things that I think make a lot of sense for us. When you talk about having a viable business, you can generate those yields, and you can sort of put some of that yield back to work in a cyclical manner with your underlying assets, whether it is finance or acquisition. Let me give you one example. So sports.com, one of our brands, and now with the acquisition of Veloce and Quadrant, there's a significant underlying asset there. We're in the process, and I'm only going to say what's public information, so you don't have to worry about trading the stock. I don't want to jeopardize anybody's liberty. So I think what's important is, with sports.com, we're in the process of acquiring a European football club, right? So after the completion of Veloce and Quadrant, we're going to buy a European football club. You can tokenize those assets. You can digitize those assets. And it's not just that. In the United States right now, name, image, and likeness is a huge deal, right? So college football players, basketball players that were leaving college early because they wanted to go into the NBA or the NFL and get their big paycheck are staying in college now because the NCAA is now permitting them to sell, right, their name, image, and likeness. And so, a basketball player is staying in school earning $4 million where his starting salary at the NBA would be $1 million. If you can take those, you can digitize those, and you can use you can use the DAT, right, to support those efforts. And I think, look, we went through this process for the last 6 or 9 months, and our company finally decided that we're going to do a DAT. We're going to raise $300 million, but the advantage there is that we're not diluting our shareholders, right? It's a separate raise at a subsidiary. Our shareholders benefit because as a subsidiary performs or outperforms some of our other subsidiaries, they get the benefit of the stock price going up, but at the same time, we're creating value in a meaningful way.
No, absolutely. That's a noble way, and I think this is what we've been talking about as well, that bringing the true value of the digital asset. I mean, like the DATs are great category creation from that way, where you invite institutions to see what's happening in this world, but then you actually, kind of tokenize these real world assets and these IPs basically to, bring the real alpha in. Which brings me to a question, maybe Wojciech, if you want to take it first, around the frameworks on deployment, because I think you guys have started deploying from the previous round already, so this might be more relevant for you, that how are the guidelines in terms of how you deploy, when do you deploy, what are the operational frameworks? I know it's a boring work, but it's important, right? So how do you go about that?
So first of all, we are a public entity, so we need to use the highest measures. So we started with onboarding partners. There are a few on this here as well with us. You need to go into the qualified custody. That's first. I mean, you need to do it in a way that it's safe and secure, not just for the company, but also from the perspective of the market. Then we believe that you need to understand a little bit what's the current market situation. So personally, we believe that the market is a little bit flat now. We don't know how long it will take, but that's the current outlook from our perspective. And then we use different techniques, different strategies in order to buy the treasury from the fiat that we got from the investors in a way to maximize the asset value. In the meantime, we do it in a way that we support our services. So we do validation. For validation, we needed some core tokens, for example, so we bought them. We needed Bitcoins, so we bought them. The rest of the money we put into some options in order to maximize the position that we have, right? And if we would have like a different approach, probably we would go in some different narrative. But what's very important is to do it in a safe manner with the partners which are credible, institutions which are known, and so on.
No, I think that is fantastic because I think this can be a blueprint for a lot of other DATs as well, and that can become a revenue stream as well. Maybe Amar, you would want to have a chat with Wojciech later on maybe use those services because they have cracked the model already. And like I know it's too early for you guys to talk about that, but have you guys thought about any governance frameworks around how the deployment, because you guys are going to go towards the real world assets a lot. I mean, like the private equity part and digital assets as well. So like, is there any governing structure, any operational frameworks around it?
Yeah, so I mean, I think part of the vetting process on the opportunity to work with DAT or to create a DAT for Seg Media was making sure that we've got the smartest people, successful people that are in the space that know a lot about not just DATs themselves, but have partners in the space and have a pretty wide or extensive Rolodex. And so what we've done is, as part of the creation of this DAT, this $300 million DAT, we put together an advisory board. And that's sort of the governance of not the company itself, right? Not the subsidiary that we're going to create, but that advisory board is made of experts in the space who are advising the parent company's board on exactly what we need to do. And in fact, I thank Luna PR for hosting this event, but it wouldn't be correct if I didn't thank our advisors for getting us to this stage. We've got several of them sitting here. You've got Jack, who's actually part of VeloChain Quadrant. He's a founder there, and he's as soon as we make our completion, he's going to be joining the advisory board and coming up to Seg Media as an executive, and we'll be spearheading it with folks like Mustafa and Safe. I'm not sure if you're on the advisory board, but if you are, it's a conflict of interest for you to be asking me questions.
Yeah, there will be. I don't know. We'll have to check the laws.
All right, we'll check. If the offer hasn't been made, certainly. But, I think the reason we're here is because, our advisors recommended that this is where you need to be. It just happened to be that Lando was vying for a championship, and so it certainly made it a lot easier for us to get out here.
Amazing. And let's talk about the future a little bit. What do you think will be, how does 2025, 2027, next 2 years look like in terms of the model? It's pretty clear both of you believe that the active management is the way to go. But what specifically do you think would be the thing that will create the alpha, the outsized return for the investors? Let's maybe start with you if you want.
I think for us, it's quite simple. I think if you're doing a passive model, you're a dinosaur in the space. If you're doing an active model, I think if you're not connecting that with real-world assets and you don't have a connective tissue with a fundamentally sound business or businesses, in our case, I think you're going to end up being a dinosaur also, or you're going to be a service provider to folks like our company. And that's not to say that we can't do that internally. We would prefer to go where, highest and best use of folks, right? And so find the best people in the business, the best companies doing it, and hopefully that allows us to create this sort of cyclical where the DAT is putting into the real world assets are kicking up to the parent company, the stock price is going up, and so in theory, it's not even like a cyclical thing for us, it's sort of a triple bump for us.
It's exponential that way. Yeah.
And so, I'm happy we didn't get into the space before, I'm sure we would have done very well, but I think investors are weary, right? And so the investors that we want to go after, and sort of as we raise this $300 million DAT fund, is we want to go after the investors that actually recognize and are forward thinking, right? Futurists. And so, tokenization of real world assets, it's been done. But when you start to connect all of these things and you're on NASDAQ's global market, I think makes us very unique.
Absolutely. Wojciech, what do you think? Where's the outsized return coming from?
I think that on conferences like during this Abu Dhabi Finance Week, people who are sitting around, we are much far advanced that the real world is, right? And we are saying tokenization is already in progress. It's not yet. It's a very beginning. So basically what we believe in, and that's what we are doing, is that all the public entities, the financial markets, the banks, other financial institutions, they need the help, at least in Europe, with professional services, with understanding how to tokenize the assets, how to bring it to the reality. And one of the markets that we are now see it's very underserved, but there is a lot of potential. It's like, for example, mortgages. And this is like a next big thing which will happen, we believe, in Europe. So from our perspective as the active treasurer of the company who provides services for decentralization, for tokenization, we see that there is a big impact which is happening now, and we can provide a lot of value to support those organizations and help them to tokenize assets, right? From the perspective of our treasury, we see also other digital asset treasuries, and there is a person here with me, we spoke like 2 days ago, about DATs of DATs. So I believe that there is also something that is coming to the place. I mean, if you will look at the at the current market of DATs, you will see that there's plenty of them, and most of them are trading far below NAV. Why is that? Because they were created by the Wall Street guys. What Wall Street guys know how to do? They know how to bring money. So basically, a lot of money were pulled into those DATs. But then, I mean, you have to manage those DATs somehow. And this is not the area of their expertise, right? So we believe that there will be like a next phase of DATs, which will be more professionalized, proper people sitting in the management boards, and they will convert those passive DATs into the active DATs, right? We are also thinking about this idea, so maybe from the next round, which we are raising, we will not be buying directly the digital asset, the Bitcoins or some other assets to our treasury, but maybe we will start looking for some other DATs which are trading far below NAV, because then you can buy $1 for 60 cents, for example, right? So why I said that? Because it just shows that the market is very fresh. I mean, to be honest, we are on the very beginning, and there is a lot that can be potentially done.
Absolutely. I think you just dropped a very big alpha for everyone who understand that, distressed debt is a thing. And you can always buy the most coolest, asset belonging to the tokenization as well. I'll not take the name. But I'll wrap this up with a comment from my side. I think passive is safe, but well, it's passive. Active management is the way to go, definitely. But we need to understand that there's a lot of, yield generation, RWAs, looping, borrowing, derivatives, everything out there. And, what would really matter going forward is how the frameworks, governance, and operational capabilities are built around those. And I believe that both of you, and especially Wojciech, I think you have already done a fair bit of work on that. There's a lot of learnings for others to do. And I think this is where I think from a ZIGChain perspective, we are also coming in with this force that, anyone in the industry who is running a DAT already or planning to run, we can really help them out structure in a way where, they can actually bring real yield, or they can bring the enhanced yield by through the DeFi functions or the tokenization function. So thank you everyone for coming in. And once again, both of you for making your way here. And thank you to Luna PR once again.
Thank you.